Welcome. This is Mr. Vandermeiden. Today we are going to be discussing points, lines, and planes. Now remember that you can use the pause button at any time during this lesson to write down any definitions that you need or to make sure you understand the concepts being taught. Let's get started. Our objective in this lesson is for you to understand basic terms and postulates in geometry. It's very important that you understand that geometry is a mathematical system that builds upon itself. We begin with some accepted facts and basic terms and definitions, and we just continue building from there. So it's very, very, very important that you learn your vocabulary and your postulates and remember them as we continue on through the year. Our first concept is called point. It is an undefined term, meaning that there's no real definition. It indicates a location, but it has no sign. It's like it's there, but it's not there. That's why we call it an undefined term. We represent a point with a simple dot, like you see there. Points usually have a capital letter next to them, and the reason why is because that's how we name them, with the capital letter. So if you see this symbol, you can name that location, that point, by saying point A. Very basic idea. I hope you've got it. Now let's build upon this idea of a point and move on to a line. A line is a straight path. It goes in opposite directions forever and ever and ever, and it has an infinite number of points. And we represent that by simply drawing a straight line with arrowheads at both ends. And although there are an infinite number of points on it, we generally only see 2, 3, 4. To name a line, you need one of two things. You either need 2 points on the line, say A and B, with the line symbol above it. Here's A and B. Notice that above A and B there is that line symbol. It is a line with arrowheads at both ends. We could also name this line BC and line CA. Notice that the order of the points doesn't matter. Sometimes you will see an italicized letter at one arrow point of a line, in this case L. So we could name this line L. Let's talk a little bit about some definitions. The first definition I want to talk about is collinear. That means to lie on the same line. Co, meaning together, linear, meaning line, so together on the same line. We can look at this and we can see that points A, B, and C are on the same line. They are collinear. However, we can also add other points to this figure. Say this point D that's sitting out over there. Now D is not on line L. So we can say that points A, B, and D are non-collinear. The opposite of collinear would be non-collinear. Let's move on. We're going back to some undefined terms here. Again, we're going to be building on this idea of a line and moving into a plane. A plane is represented by a flat surface that extends without and in 2 dimensions. Okay, so it goes on forever. So imagine the top of your desk going on forever and never ending. A plane contains infinitely many lines. A line contains infinitely many points. A plane contains infinitely many lines. How do we represent it? Very simply, we use a parallelogram. So although you will see a parallelogram drawn a lot, please know that it has no edge. The parallelogram is only indicating that it's a flat surface and that it is going to continue on forever. It's an attempt at a 2-dimensional drawing. How do we name a plane? Well, there's a couple of different ways to name a plane. One is by using an italicized uppercase letter. You can see the P in the upper left-hand corner there. So we can name this plane P. The other way to name it is by using 3 non-collinear points in the plane. So we could use, for example, points A, B, and D and call this plane ABD, or we could call it plane ACD, or we could call it plane BDC. Once again, the order doesn't matter. The thing that matters with the points is that there's 3 of them that are non-collinear. We cannot name this plane ABC because those are collinear points. Now let's talk about another definition. We just talked about collinear, meaning that they're on the same line, so this definition is coplanar. And it means to lie on the same plane. Points A, B, C, and D are all coplanar. Line L and point D are coplanar, meaning that they are on the same plane. But now, because we want to also talk about non-coplanar, let's add a line here. Notice that this line is going through plane P at point B. So here we have line M that is not in plane P. It's going vertical to it. Let's say that on this line M we have point E. We can now say that points A, B, D, and E are non-coplanar, meaning that they are not in the same plane. Okay, let's try all of these concepts. What are two other ways to name the line ZS? Well, first thing that might help with naming something is to simplify the figure. So let's go ahead and eliminate everything in this figure except line ZS. So notice the plane disappeared. And we can see quite easily now that there are 3 points on this line, and we can use any two of those 3 points to name this line. So we could name this line SK or line KZ. Remember, the order of the points doesn't matter. Also notice that script Y there. That allows us to name this line Y. Let's go back to our original figure, and this time, what are two other ways to name plane M? Once again, let's eliminate anything that doesn't deal with plane M. Let's take out line Y. Notice that line Q doesn't really have much to do with naming a plane, so let's get rid of that as well. So now that we see plane M, we can see several points on it, and we need 3 points on plane M that are non-collinear. So we could name plane M plane G, R, K, because those 3 points are not on a line. We could name a plane KLR, because again, those 3 points are not on a line. And there are several other names that you can use as well. Let's try this question. What are the names of 3 collinear points? To be collinear, they have to be on the same line. There are 2 lines. We could say that points L, K, and G are collinear. Or we could say that points S, K, and Z are collinear, because those points lie on their respective lines. If it helps, redraw the figure with only the lines showing. It may be easier for you to see the collinear points that way. Another quick question. What are the names of 4 coplanar points? The quick ones to notice are points R, G, K, and L. Simply remove line Y from the figure, and those are the only 4 points that are left. However, have you noticed that Z, K, L, and S are also coplanar? Just because a plane is not visible in the figure does not mean it's not there. There is a plane that comes down along line Y and includes points L, S, K, and G. In fact, all of the other line there. Now we want to give you an opportunity for you to try this on your own. Press pause and answer these 3 questions. When you think you have the answers, press play and we'll give them to you. So you think you have the answers? I'll bet you do. There are actually several other ways to name line Q. You could name it line KL, or line KG, or line GL. Again, by switching the order, you would have other ways to name them as well. For question number 2, plane RGL works just fine, but you could name the plane using any 3 non-collinear points. So plane RKL or plane GLR also work. And finally, points Z and S are points that are not coplanar with points G, L, and R. How did you do?